Thank you so much for joining. This is our first actual What's New and Coming Soon in Noloco, May 2024 edition, but assuming this goes well, the first of many, I hope. So basically today, myself and Jill, who will introduce ourselves in a second, will be going through exactly what it says in the tin, what's new and what's coming soon in Noloco. So we'll be taking a look at anything that's been released in the last few months and everything that's been going to be released in the next few weeks and maybe months. So it's actually an action-packed agenda. So we'll be flying through it a bit fast. So we'll be saving questions for the middle, where we transition from what's new to the coming soon section. And then at the end, we'll also have a chance to kind of catch up on the questions after we cover what's coming soon. We'll aim to wrap this up within the hour, if that's okay with everyone. But if we don't get around to answering your questions towards the end, you can always follow up with us afterwards. Just so you know, if you can keep your questions in the Q&A section as opposed to the chat, it allows us to kind of keep track of which questions we've answered and which questions we haven't. Feel free to throw them in that section throughout the whole call, and we will maybe address some relevant ones as we go, or hold them to the kind of the two Q&A sections that we'll do. So without further ado, I'll start with a quick intro to myself. My name is Dara. I'm the founder and CEO of Noloco. And for anyone that struggles to read that name, it's Dara. You can ignore the G and the H. I like to start all of my calls this way because my Irish name trips almost everyone up. If you're here, you do probably know what Noloco is at this point, but I'll always start with a quick introduction. Noloco is a platform for small and medium-sized businesses or teams to build custom apps for their businesses on top of their existing data. We have our own Noloco tables, but we also integrate with things like Airtable, SmartSuite, Google Sheets, Postgres, and MySQL, and other tools like Xano, Make, and Zapier to build a really custom app for your business that really unleashes the spreadsheets that you're probably working with to date. And today we'll be looking at what's new and what's coming soon. Jill, would you? I'm joined today, sorry, by Jill, and it'd be great if you could introduce yourself.
Of course, thanks, Dara. So yeah, it's great to see so many familiar names on today. But for those of you who do not know me, my name is Jill with a G, so not Gil for people wondering about that. And I often get those mistakes made as well. So I like to start with that too. And I head up our partnership program inside of Noloco. So I've got the great pleasure of working very closely with our B2B service partners and affiliates who help bring Noloco to a much wider audience. And yeah, I'm really looking forward, to be honest, for tuning in on some of these new updates, as I discovered one today that I wasn't even aware of myself, despite being on the team. And that just goes to show of all the great things that we're continually adding. So yeah, we're going to just be going through it from top to bottom, what we recently launched and what's coming imminently. So yeah, looking forward to seeing the show myself and answering all of your questions.
Brilliant. No, yeah, brilliant. So I'll move on because, like I said, we do have quite a lot to cover. This is the kind of highlights. So we'll be going through what's new. So everything from PWAs, native notifications, live syncing, address autocomplete, better upload validations, new action buttons, new ways to format your charts, new timeline functionalities, better formula support, more options around comments, better ways to organize your apps and workspaces, and even improvements to our recent Docs Automator integration. We'll be going through each one of these in various levels of details, some more, some less. And I just want to call out, though, a lot of these features have been the direct result of, engagement from people on this call. You'll probably see a few features that you asked for here. We take feature requests really seriously, and they're what help drive Noloco and make it a lot better. So if you are ever thinking that Noloco could or should do something differently or better, drop a comment in our community. It's community.noloco.io. There's a feature request section there. We look at every single one of them. Other people weigh in. It's a great way to kind of improve upon the platform that we all know and love. Brandy, I see you're in the comments there. Yeah, you've made some fantastic suggestions, and you'll definitely see some of the ones you've kind of worked with here. So that's what's new. Quickly then, we'll be moving on to what we're working on and what's coming soon. So again, some amazing things here, various degrees of kind of timeline on this, but we're talking lookup fields, e-signature fields, column sections for more flexible layouts, pivot tables, stacked bar charts, better workflow action, kind of descriptions, nav links in your folders, and then of course conditional record coloring. So that's basically what we're going to be doing. And so I think we'll just kick off, right? So what's new? And I need to take a quick drink before we get into it, because we're going to be moving pretty fast. Okay. First up on the list, I'm sure you all saw our big launch about this pretty recently, but we recently released progressive web app support for Noloco. Progressive web apps, better known as PWA support, basically blend the best of web and mobile app worlds. So you can build the Noloco app you've already been building, and with a few clicks, you can basically turn that into an app that you or your users can download directly to their browser or download directly to their phone. And this is fantastic because it basically gives you instant PWA functionality. It means you can install these apps natively on any sort of device, whether it's a Windows computer, Mac OS computer, Android phone or an iOS phone. And of course, then we can also tap into more native functionalities such as push notifications and other things. So I'll quickly show you how this works. So I'll be jumping between a live demo and our slides today. So it's very simple to set up, which is kind of the easiest part about it. If you go to your settings in your app, all you have to do is go to progressive web app settings, okay? And there's basically three things that you need to do. You need to make sure you have an app title and description. You need to have a favicon of basically a square favicon that's not too small. And you need to publish your app. Once all three of those things are done, you can click enable progressive web app, and then you just need to publish your app again. And what that means is you get a app-like experience on your phone, just like this. So you can see here, I've got the client portal installed. You can load it up. It loads it up just like it would if you're working in an app, and you can navigate the app, basically from your desktop. It saves your session, you log in more easily. It just makes it a much better experience, basically. And this is really great, particularly if you got field workers on your team who need to kind of access your app each and every day, or even each and every hour, right? The feedback we've been gotten so far on this has been brilliant, because it's basically unlocked a whole new category of apps for people. So yeah, this is PWA and progressive web apps. Nice, cool. Moving on, a kind of an expansion on PWA is actually native notifications. So we didn't want to just build a mobile wrapper to your app, or a more making a way for you to make your Noloco app look better on mobile. We've actually wanted to kind of build in native notifications from the very beginning, which is something no other platform can offer at the moment. This means if you are using that comments feature, when someone comments on a record, instead of just getting that notification via email and via the notification tray in Noloco, if they enable native notifications, that notification will get pushed directly to their notifications tray on their phone or on their computer. So if if they haven't got the app open, they'll still get notified. This is again particularly brilliant for people who work in the app in the field. Maybe they're doing door-to-door sales, maybe they're doing installations, and they need to be notified when something changes. So these come out of the box, nothing else you need to do. You can simply just use the comments, like I said, or if you're using the send a notification action in one of your workflows and your users have basically set up native notifications, then yeah, these will just work. And it's just a much better way to keep your users engaged and work with your users wherever they are. Cool. All right, moving on again. Airtable Live Sync. We've probably all seen me talk about this at this point. And for those of you that aren't using Airtable, this might not be as relevant, but for those of you that are, we made huge changes to how we sync your data from Airtable. So for those that don't know, when you use Noloco basically fetches that data from Noloco's database, which means we have to keep that in sync. Before this, we would basically check your Airtable base every few minutes, figure out what's changed, figure out what hasn't, and we'd pull that in if we could. If you had a really big base, this would get problematic. It also meant there was no kind of consistency between how long it would take to sync and how long and when that update would change. Now it's live. Basically, anytime you make a change in Airtable, anywhere between 5 and maybe 20 seconds later, that change gets pushed directly to your Noloco app. Not only does that mean, that your data stays consistent, it means your users don't have to even reload the page to see those changes. I'm going to show you this, right? So you can see this here. I'm going to pull up my Airtable base on the right. Now, keep in mind, this is the demo, right? Hopefully this all goes right, but you never know, right? I'm going to pull up of course that hasn't gone right. Oh, sorry, here you go. Never mind. Right, open up Riverside. This is an app built in Noloco, powered by this Airtable base that I have on the right. You can see the exact same data here, right? You've got clients, users, payments, project tasks, etc. Right? So if I open up the Riverside Tax Solutions record and I open up this here as well, let me just change this to Riverside Law Firm, right? I'll start the clock now. Hopefully, this should get updated. There you go, right? I don't know what that, 6 seconds maybe, this gets updated. And you can see that'll basically work for any of these values, whether you're adding users, whether you're changing status values. It means that anything you change in Airtable gets pushed instantly, sorry, to Noloco. And of course, the other way around as well. There you go. So that's Airtable Live Sync. It's been a game changer. It's allowed us to scale to supporting a lot more records, a lot faster across a lot of different tables. And honestly, it's the most seamless way to use Airtable and any other kind of front-end tool at the moment. And thank you to everyone who has helped us work on that. We know there's been kind of a few things we needed to figure out in the very beginning, but so far the interface has been really smooth and really amazing. And it's kind of dramatically improved that. Another big one we did recently was highlight coloring. I love this one myself in particular because at the end of the day, Noloco is about lifting the data out of things like spreadsheets and making them much more intuitive, much more engaging to kind of understand, much more visually appealing. So in particular, things like dates, deadlines, you need to know whether you've hit them, you need to know whether you're late. And you can now with highlight coloring, you can do exactly that. So here's an example. So in this start date field, it's a highlight field. I've set up a condition that basically says in my start date field, it should be green if the project start date is after today and the status is not equal to planned, but it should be orange if the start date is before start of day and the project status is planned, right? Which means, we're basically late on this because it's still planned and we haven't been in progress and the start date blank, but yeah, it's wrong basically. So if I change the start date, I'll drop out of build mode. If I change the start date to sometime in the future, it should not be yellow, right? And if I change it to again in the past, it goes back to being yellow. And again, it's just a really quick way to not have to do the kind of mental maths around this. And of course, I'm using dates because it's the most easy one to understand. But you can do this with anything. It could be around values paid. It could be an invoice amount or an invoice status that you want to highlight. There's basically an unlimited amount of ways you can use this. Jill, I'm wondering, have you seen any particularly interesting partner uses in this case, or what have you heard from the partners about this?
Yeah, I haven't seen any live examples just yet, but I've heard feedback from the wild that it's very much appreciated. So I'm sure it's being implemented in some nice places. And I know that people, now that they have a taste of it in highlight blocks, they are looking for it in more places. So that would be the main thing I'm hearing. But it's a good sign, right? It's hitting what people are, I suppose it's hitting what people are looking for, right? And it makes the data really pop. But you may be able to add some in there later on that front.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's exactly it. And you're touching on something that people might have spotted in the coming soon section of this presentation. Yeah, and as Diana just mentioned in the chat, You can just add conditions that will, always be true if you just want to add a bit of color to your page as well. It's not, obviously it's not intended to be exactly that, but it is certainly another way of using it, right? So, yeah, no, well, we do hope to plan to kind of weave this into other places of the app, and I'll be touching on this, but just now that we've kind of built that underlying logic, we can kind of use that across various different places, which is pretty great. Okay, right. Address autocomplete. Oh man, this has been asked for so many months, and it's been out for a few weeks, and the feedback's been fantastic. So what is this? Basically, you can now supercharge your address fields with Google Maps auto suggestions directly as your users type. So this is huge because not only does it just speed up forms, but it also reduces errors and improves accuracy. And again, the feedback we got from people was that their team are writing shipping addresses or delivery addresses or installation addresses all day, and they basically need to know that the addresses are spot on, right? So now it's super easy. I'm going to show you how to do this, right? So let's say we have this client portal and we want to add an address basically to our clients. So we know, let's say we're sending them a Christmas gift, or maybe it's just their invoice address, but I prefer my first one. You can just add a new field. If I spell address, no, let's do these. Yep. Got it. And you can go down to the address field, street address, right? That's all you have to do. They'll all be blank, obviously. Now let's go back to our form. To go to add a client, I can drop it to build mode and close that out. And I can just turn on the address field. Right now, once that's turned on, got it. Once that's turned on, you can basically just start typing and you'll get some brilliant results straight away. And when you click them, they auto-populate, right? And there you go. But obviously, not everybody's using the address field, which is native to Noloco and our Smart Suite integration, which brings me to my next feature that came out with this. I don't know if anybody noticed, there's a very subtle difference between these two slides, but they're very important. So the address autocomplete doesn't only work with the address fields, it also works on any text field. So let me go back and add a new field to this called, plain address, something simple. And I'll just make it a single line text field. Excellent. Switch back into build mode, and I'll just add my plain address. Now, obviously, the plain address is just blank, no suggestions. But all you have to do is go here, check display field as, and you want to type autocomplete address field. And with that done, and I'll turn off build mode, again, if I type 4D Smith, you just get this, which is really, really useful. All you need to do is set up your Google Maps Auto API key, which is we can provide instructions for you to do that. And yeah, basically, yeah, it's really seamless after that. You get the full address, you get all the validation. Customers don't need to use it if they don't want. They could change this if they really insist that the address is wrong, which is often the case, particularly for non-US addresses, actually. I was plagued by my apartment not being in Google Maps for many years until I moved. Seemed like the only solution at that point. But yeah, that's those two features. Which brings us to about halfway, I think. This is a great one. We all know we all need to upload files, and the file or attachment field is brilliant for this. But more often than not, when there's an attachment field, there's a purpose for it. You want to collect, a client's logo, or you want to upload an invoice to it, or you want to collect, you want to attach a video to it. More often than not, there's a format that goes with a file field. But until now, there's been no way to limit the upload of files types to those fields. And now you can, right? So if we go back to this field here, we've got a logo here. Of course, the logo should only be an image, only an image. So you can do that. So you bet the allowed file types, you can just turn off the ones that you don't want to support. And now when you hover over the logo, it says only image files are allowed. And if I click it, you can see that only the image files are selectable. So as much as I want to add my PDF, you just can't. So we do have these 5 options, which pretty much cover everything you'd want. But we are looking to expand this in the future as well. As you can imagine, we get more complicated with more specific MIME types. Maybe you want to just allow SVGs, or just, you only want the MP3s, that sort of thing. That's something we're going to be adding in the future. Excuse me. So, all righty, what have we got next? Oh yeah, this is a favorite of mine. I think, Jill, I think this is the one you mentioned that you only discovered today, actually.
Yeah, it's something I would have loved a long time ago too. So I was really pleased to see this one slip in.
Yeah, this one is super simple, and it, in hindsight, a real kind of missing piece of our action buttons. So as everyone probably knows, our action buttons started as a way to kind of create and update records, easily within the context of the page. But a natural kind of addition to that is to kind of view a record. It's really useful if you kind of have, maybe it's you have a linked record that has more details, or you want to just keep your collection view. Maybe it's a Kanban board. You want to keep that simple, but you do want to be able to open up more details without actually opening up the whole record. And now you can do exactly that, and I'll show you how. If we come back here, and if we come to our tasks, I believe, yeah, if we come to our tasks, I've added this little action button called info. So obviously I've kept this pretty dense, but I could make it more dense, and I've kind of just shown some of the main objects. But if I click info, it pulls up more information, like the full description, the assignee, the priority, the due date. And you could add multiple sequences to these, just like before. So it's just an action button action, just like any other. And it's really, really simple to set up. It works the same way as the details component on our record pages. So you have kind of control over field widths, how fields are displayed, conditional visibility within the action button. It's really, really great. So let me show you how that works. If we go to our options on these, you can basically add, I can go to my action button here that I've already got set up. It's going to have to be a modal action button, obviously. But then you just basically choose view a record as the action. And you just, you choose which fields you want. And just like a record details block, you can change things like labels to help text, how much width each field should take up, and which conditions they should be visible for. And in the end, you get a really powerful way to kind of lift record information out. And of course, this could also be used to hide information only when certain conditions are met. So maybe you actually only want to show the client information when the project is ready to start, or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe you only want to show your contact details to the client when you're in the project, when they've paid, or something to that effect. So these can be used both ways, and again, it provides a very useful way to kind of present more details.
Yeah, I like that idea a lot. I could see it being really useful in, like, you've got a Kanban board there, so it could be like a project life cycle or a deal pipeline, and depending on like what stage the project or deal is in, you're going to want to see like different highlight information right in your little preview modal. So you could do like conditionally visible preview info buttons that look the same, but different ones are showing depending on the stage. And when a deal is about to close, you're going to want to see certain information versus when a deal started. And yeah, this could be really nice. You could do a lot of cool things with this just to make things more efficient and just getting quick info at a glance.
Absolutely. And it could be used as like, review the information and then approve the information. So here's the information. Yeah. Do you want to like approve it? And that fires off a webhook or whatever you need to do. They slot right into our multi-step action buttons already. So yeah, there's loads and loads of nice things there.
Cool.
Excellent. All right. I hope everybody's able to keep up with the pace. How are we doing on time? No, we've half an hour left. Excellent. This is another nice one, that kind of something that people have asked for a lot and has been limiting our charts, right? So obviously dashboards and charts are a huge part of building any kind of app, whether it's internal tool or client portal. But now you can add custom conditions to your chart series, which let me explain what that means. So basically before you could add multiple series to your charts, such as, how many payments were being collected, the sum of all payments collected by a customer. But there was no way to filter the different series so that you can actually represent different pieces of information. You had to pick a different, metric that you were showing in each series. So I pop over to the payments dashboard. I've set this up already. Now you can see that I have two series. They're both working off the kind of the sum of each payment, but they're actually split by each series is split by the payments that are collected and payments that are awaiting to be collected. Admittedly, this data set isn't particularly great because it's kind of sparse, but you can see that it basically says the Crescent Communications Inc. Before this chart, it would have looked like, these guys had all paid up just as much as, say, Pinnacle Health Partners. But now it's quite clear that they're actually, almost in arrears by a huge amount, but, not as good a customer, say, as these two, which is pretty useful to know in the same kind of chart. So how's that set up? Well, you go to the chart section, you go open up your chart. You can see that I've got two series here. And all you do is you add a little filter to your series. And this one just says the status is equal to collected. And, obviously the other one just says the status is not equal to collected, or it could have said the status is equal to awaiting collecting. It's the same thing. Yep. There's loads of options here. That was just the one I came up with the top of my head, but yeah, it should be able to do a lot more with this. And of course, we'll be able to introduce this into a few more places within Noloco as well. Excellent. Alrighty. 2-week timeline view. I'm sure this one speaks for itself, but I will go through it. So we introduced a timeline view quite a long time ago. It's been great, but we got a suggestion for a 2-week view, which is something that I thought was a great idea. Some people work on months, some people work on quarters, some people work on weeks, some people work on days, but some people work on 2 weeks. So why not add that option as well? And it kind of gives you an idea of what tasks are running over weekends, what tasks are running, over a few weeks. So again, it's very simple. If you have a timeline view anywhere, you basically now have the option to have 2 weeks. And of course, this can, as you saw, it can be the default view as well. But you can also jump between the different weeks as well, depending on what works best for you. And I guess this is why. So before this, you basically had to choose work week, which would basically look like, there's nothing really happening. Or you had to choose month, which was a bit blown out. Maybe like, I don't really need to know what's happening 3 weeks away. So now that we've got a 2-week view, you kind of got the best of both worlds. It's really nice. Really, really nice. All right. I see we have a few questions coming in. I think we will get a chance to go through them all in the little break. I think if I start it now, we will never get to the end. So don't worry, exactly. I've seen your questions. Yeah.
I think there's about 4 more slides to break, so we're nearly there.
Yeah, we can fly through. Yeah, these are all smaller anyway. Real small update to our formula fields. We previously only supported the lower function, I suppose, in formulas. Now we support upper as well. If anyone doesn't know, we have formula support in Noloco. They're very easy ways to kind of manipulate your data and add better values to them. So basically with the new lower support or upper support, you can kind of call it upper name, for example, and you just create a formula and you can call upper, which is now a value, which it wasn't before. You can do that. And yeah, you should get the upper first name, basically. There you go. Yep. And of course, you can use this in combination with lower and every other formula as well to kind of create something more interesting. So, excellent. And disable attachments comment. This is one I really hadn't thought of before, and which is why community feedback is just so crucial to us. Comments are a great way to communicate about a record, communicate with your clients, communicate internally. But if you have a process for gathering documents from your customers, say on a project or a task, you don't want them dumping those attachments into the comment threads. And as much as you will tell them not to do that, they certainly will. So we basically introduced the way to disable attachments in comments. It's a very simple change. You can just disable it with the switch. It's enabled by default, and if it was enabled before, it's still enabled. But it means you can streamline your communications and streamline your processes, more importantly. So, like I said, if you've got workflows relying on them uploading their attachments, the whole idea in setting up your app was that you weren't taking attachments from emails and putting them into an app, presumably. So why would you go from taking attachments from comments and putting them into an app? So this basically prevents that if it's an issue for you. And it's very easy to do. All you need to do is go to anywhere you have comments enabled. So I'll open up this, for example. I can enable comments by turning on build mode, coming down to record comments, clicking show record comments, and then disabling allow users to attach files. So I'll show you what that looks like. So if this is open, basically if you disable this switch, the attachment little clip goes away. And if you paste in a file, it will no longer work, right? Very simple, very important, and very great example, in my opinion anyway, of how we kind of take that feedback that I certainly wouldn't have noticed this before, because this isn't how our workflows are working, and a great way to kind of improve Noloco. So again, thank you to everyone for that suggestion. And this is another one. Might not be useful to everyone, but particularly our partners, I think this is going to be particularly useful. So I'll say a few words and then hand over to Jill on that. But basically, Workspaces in Noloco are a way to manage your apps, and more importantly, who can access the apps in those workspaces, and then also manage the billing of those apps. And before this, it was unclear who was able to access all of your apps and who was able to access the billing of your apps and add apps to your workspace. And now it's much more clear. So if you open up the Noloco dashboard, which is portals.noloco.io, you can actually create a new workspace if you're on a paid workspace. This will give you a brand new space to kind of create apps that aren't charged at the added to your other bill. But it also allows you to invite people to your workspace and basically control who has access and upgrade individual apps. And for partners, this is particularly useful because you can set up multiple workspaces for different partners while you're kind of in staging, or you can be invited to multiple workspaces and manage that more effectively. Jill, do you want to add anything on that?
Yeah, no, I think you've said pretty much everything there. It's definitely going to be so much easier for our partners, right? Who will be working with many different clients at one time. So just having that ability to know where they all are and who these apps belong to, as opposed to your own expert workspace, where some client apps come into existence there. Sometimes you get added to a customer that's already signed up to Noloco and recruits your services later. So you're sort of covered from both angles, and most definitely makes my life a lot easier as well, helping to manage all of you guys with your requests when apps need to move. So yeah, I'm thrilled too from my side as a user, and I'm sure all of our partners are too. So yeah, it's great. Love this one. Great enhancement.
Absolutely. No, it's great to see it. All right, I think this might be the last one then in the what's new section. So again, in our launch week that we had in February, we released the Docs Automator integration. But one of the feedback we got almost immediately was that they want to be able to sort the line items that they send to Docs Automator. This is particularly interesting because Docs Automator don't have a native solution for this, but it is something we'd be able to do. So the use case here was that they wanted to source the line items by, I think it was the line item order, basically. So they were able to control that order. Maybe it was the order they were added, or maybe you want to sort them by smallest to biggest, or date added, or anything like that. Now you can do that. Very simple. You just pick the field that you want to do that by, and yeah, they get sent to Docs Automator in that order, and they'll get put on the invoice in that order. Or sorry, not on the invoice, on the document you generate, which is very often an invoice. I'll very quickly show you how that works. So if you go to an app, you go to your workflows in your app. I've got one set up already where called generate invoice. It's got 3 actions. A generate a document with docs owner is the first action. So this works on a payments record when a payment is created. And it basically looks like it's been unmapped, which is unfortunate. Oh no. Oh no. That's not right. This was working earlier. Oh well. I'll show you where the sorting is anyway. Basically here, you can see I've got it sorted by total price, biggest to smallest. I'm not sure what's happened here, so I won't go any further. But the first bit of demo is going to get me at some point. It was going a bit too smoothly, I think.
Exactly. It was going too smoothly, Dara.
Oh well. But anyway, you can see here the total price, and you can choose from any of your fields, whether it's alphabetical, whether it's numeric, or by date. You can do that, and yeah, you customize the way
That's
you.
really cool. I really like
Yeah,
how it's like an enhancement that Noloco brings to Docs Automator as a product as well. It's like the beauty of having a great partner integration. So both platforms like benefiting can add more value. So
absolutely.
because it's
Yeah.
such a great addition to our data integration partners, I suppose. Yeah, I love Docs Automator. I'm a big fan. It's really cool.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Nice.
Excellent. So that is the end of the kind of what's new and what we've kind of shipped already. So I think we've got like 10 or 11 questions. So I'll try fly through these. Maybe Jill, if you want to
Cool.
lead some of
Happy
them.
yeah, I'm happy to read them out because I've been sort of taking a mental note when they
Yeah.
came up. So I might get you to go back to some slides that will help answer some of these. But starting with the top one, so this is around real, live Airtable sync. And there was a follow-up question from an attendee saying, are there any improvements for Airtable formulas updating in Noloco? I've noticed it takes a while when doing inline table editing. I'm going to assume that's probably from the Noloco side. I'm not too sure. We might need to get some clarification on that one, but yeah. What are your thoughts there?
It's a good question. There is a lot of nuance to, generally syncing anything. As Jill said, like if it's talking about updating from the logo, it's kind of a different question again. So by all means, reach out with a specific example and we can take a look. We have found that there's a few edge cases that sometimes slip and we've kind of just been able to patch them as we go. But this doesn't sound like it, so it could be a case of something different happening, everything should sync pretty instantly, as you saw. I did pick a simple example, of course, but formulas, lookups, they're all really the same in terms of what we get from Airtable, and they should sync pretty much instantly. If we were follow up with that, we'll happily take a look.
Exactly. So yeah, the next one's from Mark, and this came up actually when you were making some changes in the data tab. So the question here is the table changes. So in relation to the data tab updates we made a few weeks ago, and are there any plans to allow this type of layout functionality on the front end?
Yeah, I assume you mean like kind of this basically more spreadsheet-like functionality where you can, drag and drop, you can copy paste, that sort of stuff. It's a great question, Mark. The answer is yes. We would love to support this kind of rich grid or kind of power grid format throughout Noloco, or not throughout, but as a display option, as opposed to just kind of the standard. It's not going to be as simple, unfortunately, but it's definitely something we're thinking about and how we're kind of going to get there. But yeah, no, this is exactly what we'd love to support. Changing our inline editing to look a bit more like this, changing the way it scrolls, everything. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So next one here from Dominic about highlighting colored values. So again, going back to the highlights black, but is there going to be, I suppose, are we looking at coloring progress bars depending on their values? I'm going to assume, is that a stage bar? Potentially.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. So if we kind of go to this one has got it. If you say like the payments dashboard, none of these are progress rings actually, but that is definitely something we're trying to think, been asked about a good few times.
Yes.
Or is this one here? No, none of these are gauges, but yeah, the progress rings and so on, where you can kind of color it. And yeah, that's exactly the type of stuff. Now that we've built that underlying highlight technology, that highlight logic, and we plan to be able to weave that into a few different places, starting with the highlight blocks as we kind of showed. but expanding to things like charts, tables, fields, elsewhere, that sort of thing. Great question, though. Great question.
Yeah, nice. So yeah, next one up from Julian. Does the map block have a feature instead of longitude and latitude? So this would have been around the auto complete on the address fields that this question came up.
Yeah.
So I guess are we going to be able to power the map block with that data point?
Good question. Not at the moment. The good news is that if you're using our address field, when people type in the address, we actually get the latitude and longitude from Google as well. So you can kind of use the latitude and longitude values of the address field in your map. So that would be my advice there. Obviously, if you're using a text field like I demonstrated, maybe if you use something like Airtable, which doesn't have a native map field, or an address field, sorry, then you don't have as much luck, but you still need to kind of convert those addresses into coordinates. The reason why, I guess, is probably about speed. I don't know if you have 20 or like 100 pins. I don't know how quickly we'd be able to convert all of those addresses reliably into coordinates on a map. So definitely something we'll look into, though.
Brilliant. Sounds interesting. I'd like that one myself. So I think we have Michelle Valencia next. So can we edit the fields that are in the featured section? It would be great to be able to edit these fields that already tell us that something is happening. I'm trying to rack my brain on when this one came up exactly. Would this been
I think you might be referring to these highlight blocks. Yeah,
yes.
So highlight blocks aren't editable intentionally because they're bigger, and if you edit them, it would be kind of more complicated. But usually what I do is, these are fields they change less frequently, and that's why they're highlighted more often than not. So if they do need to be edited, they can still be edited with things like action buttons, which of course can then be hidden or based on different statuses as well. So in my other app, it might be, is it this one? Yeah, so it's this one. Oh yeah, in this app here, if I log in as Benjamin King, you'll see that I have a button up here that says start. And if I click that, it'll control the start date. So that's how I prefer to do it, and that's kind of the way we suggest doing it, because the editing doesn't work as nicely in the highlight blocks.
Great.
Brilliant.
So next one is from Benjamin. So do the autocomplete address field validate the address on Smart Suite side when it syncs across?
Yeah, so we're using the same source, which is basically Google Maps. So Smart Suite take what am I trying to say? So yeah, a validated address in Smart Suite is just an address that has latitude and longitude coordinates. Like I said, we calculate them when we get the address, and we pass those on to Smart Suite as well. So if you type it into Smart Suite or into Noloco and push it up to Smart Suite, you will get the latitude and longitude for that address as well, if it exists, of course.
Brilliant. Nice. So another question in from Julian. Will there be an option in the future to limit the amount of attachments? This way, there isn't always an option to upload on the inline field. This would be on the file attachment field.
Yeah, great question.
So I feel
We've got asked about this a few times, but we don't yet have a way to do this. Well, I mean, if you're using Noloco, Noloco fields do have, and again, this is why I prefer Noloco tables over syncing. Noloco file fields or upload fields allow you to choose between multiple or a single file, which is not something you can do in either Smart Suite or Airtable. Because so often, like say a company logo, it's one file. And if it's more than one file, it's usually an infinite number of files, or some reasonable number of files. We do want to add validation soon, but this is the pretty good alternative in the meantime.
Brilliant. So I'm just conscious of time. I know there's a few more questions left. I think we have about 20, just slightly over 20 minutes left, or no, 10 minutes. Yeah, 10 minutes.
10 minutes, yeah.
So let's dive into maybe what's coming soon, and then we'll get back to some of those questions. I've taken a note of them, and we'll follow up after today.
Yeah, we're happy to run on over as well, but we do want to get through the content within the hour as well. So if you are able to hang on for questions after the hour, we'll be around for a few more minutes anyway to answer as many as we can. This section won't be as long as the next section because we're here going to discuss some pretty new things that are coming, hopefully, in the next day or two, and then obviously in the next kind of weeks and months as well. But we'd like to kind of give you a sneak peek into something that we're working on. So first up, something I'm super excited about is actually lookup fields. And this is one of the things I am able to demo for you today. For those using SmartSuite or Airtable, you're probably familiar with lookup fields, but obviously this is something that Noloco tables haven't had, since we built Noloco tables. But a lookup field basically allows you to pull content stored in a record from one linked record into another. So in this example, if you have a list of projects that have each project associated with client, then you're able to pull that client name up onto the project. The reason why Noloco hasn't had these is because more often than not, you can actually show that value in the same page, or in the same form. Yeah, yourselves, you can step through the kind of data picker. So lookup fields haven't been crucial to us, but there are a few places where they're really, really important, such as maybe filters or permissions or searching. And these lookup fields will make that much more easy to do in your app. And now they're native as well. So it's just, again, something that people are very familiar with and makes it a lot easier. And I can show it to you today. So if I go and build that exact example, go to the clients table, I'll click add a new field. I'll call this project. Oh no, sorry. I wanted to go to the project table, and I wanted to, you can see the project has a client. If I want to add that client name, I can choose lookup, and I can basically choose client, and I can choose name. So what this will do is it'll find the client record, and it'll lift the name value of that client up onto this table. So once that saves, you can see that I've got that. And now, obviously, you can search for that, which is something you couldn't do before, basically. So if I search for Riverside Law Firm, we can see all of the clients belong to that. And of course, you could have done this with a drop down before, but you can get a bit more advanced. Maybe a client, maybe you want to have the status value of a client on the project, so you can filter on those as well. And of course, they can be used in formulas and lookups or in rollups and other values as well, which is pretty exciting. So, we're still rolling this out, but should be available very soon. And you should be able to look up any value, really. So look up linked fields. So if you want to pull up all of the clients that work in your client, or all of the users that are in a client, if you want to lift all of those up onto the project level, you could do that. Or maybe you want to lift all of the payments of a project up as well, you can do that as well. Whatever you need to do, you can do it with a lookup, which is fun. All right, moving on. This is another one that's gotten a lot of demand in our community, and it's great to kind of get that feedback in the community. So everyone's familiar with record pages and blank pages and how you can add things and you can customize the width. But if you've got a title and if you've got a collection side by side, that can kind of create a big gap in the page. And there hasn't been a solution for that until, well, soon. So we're basically calling these columns, and a column is something you can add to a page, and you can add other components into a column. So you can customize the width of a column, and you can customize the width of components inside a column. And this will basically allow you to get much more complex layouts in your Noloco blank pages and record pages. So if we take a look at this example here, we can see how we've added 2 or 3 items to a column here, and we've put that as 25%. Admittedly, it's not, what you would do, but it's what you can do now. And then you can put a collection next to it, right? So again, it's not ready yet. I can't show you this, but this is what it looks like. You can see that it does work and will work. And I think it'll allow for a lot more flexibility in your layouts. Okay, right, moving on. Pivot tables. I'm super excited about this because it took me probably until this year to understand what a pivot table actually is. For those of you who work day in, day out with Excel, pivot tables are just crucial. They're the only way you can kind of aggregate your data and kind of make analysis of a table of data, particularly one that kind of has different categories or timelines, right? So you can summarize and visualize your data with ease with a pivot table. But of course, once you move to something like Noloco, that is more complicated because you can't do those sort of aggregations. You can group by, you can see that some reason it's not quite the same thing. So a pivot table will allow you to do just that. So this is not something we've kind of got much of a mock-up on just yet, but it is something we're going to be working on in the next coming weeks and months, and hopefully with a beta in the next kind of few weeks. So you'll be able to kind of view, say, a breakdown of expenses by an employee over, or not expenses, sorry, sales by employees over a month. So you could have, your months on the top axis, their sales values per employee kind of then across the horizontal as well. That means you can filter as you would before. Maybe you want to only look at a few months. Maybe you only want to look at sales from a few different clients. People use different scripts and so on to pump these into different tables to get the similar result. But of course, you could just visualize it in a pivot table collection view instead. And that's exactly what this is going to be. And I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to add an amazing layer to Noloco, something that you don't really get in any of the other platforms for visualizing your data. I totally agree, Oscar. It's been amazing. All right. One or two more now. Some smaller ones, obviously, in the mix as well. We can't give you blockbuster features each and every week. Some simple quality of life wins, and this one will be available very soon. So, some of your workflows get much longer, and several actions, and you might have a few actions that update a record, and you can kind of forget what each one does, particularly when you come back 4 or 5 months later and you're like, what was I even thinking? So now you can basically rename each step. So you can see here you have renamed the first action here to send an email, and you can actually also add a description, so you can explain to yourself exactly what it does. You can explain to your colleagues exactly what it does and the intention behind it, so you don't have to piece through it when you come back to it. And this will be available very soon to all your workflows across all plans, obviously. And just, yeah, nice little quality of life win there. Yes. All righty. Charts. I led this a little bit when I talked about our kind of filtering on our chart series, but this basically stacked bar charts is something that's going to massively improve the way your visualizations and your charts work in Noloco as well. So instead of displaying your kind of 2 series side by side, be able to stack them on top. So if I go back to my example, this one here, maybe it's payments by client, or actually it was this one here. Yeah. So this would be a little tighter. You'd get more information in, and you'd see, well, actually these wouldn't be all that stacked because none of them have multiple ones. So if I'll go back to that other one, yeah, I think this one's better. The bar charts will be on top of each other, and everything, there'll be less gaps, and you'll be able to clearly see which ones are active, which ones aren't, and be a bit more stacked, which would be much better to see and much better to understand. It's ideal for tracking things like progress, comparing segments, so you might be able to look at the revenue generated by clients, in different categories or different project types, or maybe even different statuses. Whatever you need to do, it's much better visualization way than what we currently have. Okay, and 2 or 3 more small ones from the community, actually. We currently have nav links, which are links you can add to your sidebar or your top bar that you can link to anywhere, really. You can link to any other page on the web or any other page in your app. But for reasons, there's no way to put these into folders, which is something that, again, I wouldn't have thought that was super important. But once we got the feedback from you guys that actually this is something that would really help clean up the navigation bar, and we kind of said, hey, that makes sense. We should do that. So, let's take this link here. It would be really nice to be able to put this in the clients folder. So you could just show client folder or links rather that are related to the clients section, for example. It also means that you could just, with one kind of rule hide all those links if you hide the visibility, if you hide this page visibility of those. So that's something that's going to be coming very soon. Very small, small change, but again, hopefully giving you a lot more options in terms of how you organize your app, how you organize your navbar. I think this might be the last one. Yep, brilliant, almost on time. And I'm sorry for almost running over, but yeah, again, so people have kind of basically touched on this already, so I won't go into too detail. But now that we've got record or highlight coloring, we'll be able to roll this out in many more different ways, starting with conditional record coloring on tables and boards and rows. So you'll be able to define conditions for which your row should be red, green, orange, yellow, blue, etc. Which is really great, again, for seeing the same information that we've kind of now got on the highlight field at a kind of aggregate levels. You know, maybe you want to see all projects that are late, so you can see that. And that's going to be something we'll roll out very soon. Now that we've got that underlying conditional logic stuff built. And yeah, that's it. Yeah, lots of exciting stuff. I know I flew through the what's coming soon stuff. Unfortunately, I don't have as interactive with demos for all of them. Some of them are in the engineer's hands, some of them are still in the kind of design phase, but that's what you'd expect if you kind of look at our product updates over the next few months.
Nice, amazing, very exciting stuff. And some really great buzz as well in the chat. I'm loving seeing the enthusiasm for these features. It's great.
I wish I've been able to stop more and appreciate it, but I've seen it coming in. I see Brandy and Joel very excited about I think both nav links and column sections. So delighted you can see that. And yeah, pivot tables too. A lot of love for that. I mean, it's almost like it's very difficult for people to kind of transition away from kind of spreadsheets, even though that's exactly what we're telling them to do. And then they're like, but how do I pivot table? You know, now you can. Exactly. Now you can, folks. We do have some more questions, so if you want to drop by. So I think for everyone that has to jump, totally understand it's been an hour, but myself and Jill can be here for the next 15 minutes. I think if we want to take some more questions. So if you have any more questions, please do throw them in the Q&A and we can get through them. If you don't, fire your questions in the chat as you should know by now, and I'll show you all now. You can always contact us by hitting the ask question here or asking our community, or of course you can open up our guides and you can look for your own questions. We have a lot of guides. We also have the Academy, where you can teach yourself how to use Noloco. We have our tutorials. You can find upcoming webinars here on our website as well. So yeah, I think that's kind of the best place to kind of get help and ask questions. But yeah, let's try and yes, of course, we will also be sending out the recording to everybody as well after this. So if you missed anything, if I spoke too soon, if you need to listen on 0.75 because my Irish accent is too strong, you can do all of those things after tomorrow. Or if you weren't listening and you want to listen on 1.75, I won't be offended. All right, let's jump into some questions before we waste everyone else's whole day. Gabriel has a question. Actually, I'm not quite sure I understand this one question. In the field allowed, what is the space we have? Actually, I think I'll need some more context.
I think I might be around the files and
you're so right.
Storage. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you pop over to our pricing page, but yeah, actually, I'll just our pricing, basically each plan comes with different file storage. Whether you're syncing from something like Airtable or SmartSpeed, or whether you're just using Noloco tables, those files will be synced over or uploaded through the Noloco app, and each plan has a different limit in the range of kind of 5, 10, 50 gigabytes. I think that's correct anyway, but you can see it all on noloco.io/pricing.
And is there any particular hard limit on a specific file field, like maximum upload size?
Yes, there is. So if you're the max file upload is 100 megabytes at a time. Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. Yeah, covering both bases there, just in case.
Question there, yeah.
Cool. So yeah, and there's a question from Jack here. You're probably reading that as well, but I'll read it out for the audience too, just in case. So view a record. Will there be the possibility to also edit fields? Would be awesome for rich text fields, etc. And will there be an option to display linked record as a table? So potentially this is the previewing the record model, is that it?
Yeah. So we already have the option to update a record. That was kind of, what we started with. So I just show you that. If I go back to options, if I go back to info, you can see I can actually add an additional option here and click update a record. So at the moment, and of course you can change this to be a rich text as you exactly pointed out. So at the moment, you could basically say, yeah, okay, confirm that, and then I want to, fix this here, test. And that'll do exactly that. Yeah, so at the moment there's no way to mix and match both because they are quite distinctly different. But yeah.
And I think that actually answers a question further down from Kieran, who might still be on the line. Pretty similar questions. So I'm going to mark that as answered as well. But if Kieran, if you have a follow-up question that you want to add to that, you can let us know. But I think that hits for both Jasper and Kieran there. Brilliant. So Rob, yeah. So next question, is it possible to show an action button always, not just on hover? And he clarified on the collection, just on the view you're on, even you can see it there on hover.
Yeah, we get asked about this a lot. I think in practice though, it's not something people worry about too much. So on mobile, there's a little tooltip that is always shown. So if that's what your concern is, don't worry about it. On desktop though, we find that most interfaces, and this is kind of best interface practice design, is to basically only show actionable buttons in a list on hover. Because let's say you had 2 or 3 action buttons here, I'd be able to see 12 different buttons right now. Or actually, sorry, that's not true. I'd be able to see 27 different buttons right now because I'm able to see 9 different cards. And I can only press one at a time. So we, to not prevent information overload and can prevent that repeating wall of buttons, we just show them one at a time. There might be, if you have a specific use case where you think it might make sense to always show a button, we'd love to hear it. But yeah, that's kind of the reason at the moment. What about having a tooltip that's always there? I mean, yeah, definitely a suggestion we'd be open to thinking about, maybe particularly on our table views, but yeah, it's a good suggestion. Yep. Thanks, Rob.
Definitely. Cool. Yeah. So Julian's up next. Can you choose the default timeline view?
Yes, you
that
can.
Would be on the
so like this one is defaulted to 2 weeks at the moment, but if I turn on build mode, I can scroll down to general and just change the default view here. So you can see if I change that to month, it'll be month and so on. So yeah, not only can you let your users change it, but you can change the default one, which makes a lot of sense.
Okay, interesting. Next question here. So this is from Rob again. Thinking Noloco ID back to source data. You can do so with workflows, but it would be awesome, especially for pre-filling forms.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really see the need here. If you need to write formulas, you can use a Noloco formula. If it's only something you're going to be using within Noloco, then it adds a lot of complexity for us to kind of write values back up to Airtable or SmartSuite, particularly in terms of like rate limits and all sorts. So it's certainly not something we're going to be rushing to do is the truth. And I think it's pretty rare that you really need to do it. I think if you just look at the solution slightly differently, add a formula and say Noloco, it works just fine. Because just so you don't know, if you are using Airtable or SmartSuite, you can still add Noloco fields to those tables. They'll exist just within Noloco, but they won't get written back to Airtable, for example, just like the Noloco ID field.
Makes sense. Well, a quick question here. So I think this is around lookups, and will we support looking up images, for example, profile image of users?
Yeah, great question, Kieran. Files are the only type we won't be supporting in our first version. They get a little bit more complicated because files generally exist just within that link itself. So definitely something we want to support, but not in our very first version of lookups. Thanks for calling it out. It was great to hear that to be demand.
Exactly. So 2 more left in the question box here. So one from Jasper. For the new layout options, will it be possible to set width to 33% and 66%? Would be awesome, since 4 is often too cramped, but still want more than 2.
Great question. We don't have any immediate plans to add those, but it's definitely something we'll consider. I mean, it wouldn't be that complicated. We just, what we try to do at Noloco is provide sensible defaults, by, again, not providing too many options for you to go wrong with, which is kind of why we chose, the kind of divided by 4. Everything fits within 4s, but we do have divided by 6 in other places, so I can see why you'd want that as well. Or divided by 3, sorry.
Yeah, it seems to be a bit of popularity on that one as well, an upvote and a comment from Brandy. So we'll have to keep that in mind.
Definitely.
Thanks for that. And then final question here from Brandy. So on timeline, can we keep the title aligned to the left so it doesn't disappear?
The title, do you mean if they're broken into a stage, that's exactly what happens. But I don't know if you mean the event, say I see, if the event title. Good question. You can always click on it to open it up. I mean, yeah, but that's a good question. Something we could maybe look into. I don't know if it supports that out of the box. But thank you for clarifying, Brandy. All right. Some brilliant questions there. I know there was a few other questions. I think Wayne, you have a question in the chat there about the results of the autocomplete field added to other fields. So if you use the autocomplete address, like I mentioned, you are able to use, let me just show you what I mean. So I added the address field to the client's view. So if I were to turn that into a map, I can choose the address, latitude and longitude. So they are fields there. So you don't actually need to kind of add them to a different field or table, basically. That's kind of the best way. And of course, you can access them through workflows and stuff. So if you do need to write them to a different field, you could do so as well. Yeah.
Very good.
Brilliant. Cool. All right. Thank you so much for all everyone to hanging on till this long. I think it's been a great session so far, and I'm genuinely thrilled with the response and the feedback to our first What's New and Coming Soon. We'll definitely be doing some soon, so long as we can follow through, I suppose, on everything we've promised so far.
Yeah, no, and I would just say keep the ideas coming. As you can see, so many of the great ones that were, featured today have come from the community. So, we love your input and we'll continue to build the features you know and love. So yeah, keep the innovation coming our way. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Jill, of course, as well. And you'll see us all next time. If like I said, this will be going out tomorrow in your inbox. Sometime tomorrow morning, it'll be on our YouTube channel as well. If you haven't yet got started with Noloco, I think most of you have here, but if you haven't, do sign up on noloco.io. And of course, please sign up to our community where you can ask wonderful questions, see all the wonderful suggestions that everyone else has made as well at community.noloco.io. Until next time, thank you very much. Bye.